Hello, everyone. It's me, Andrew. I'm here at Star Cottage Studio in lovely Ligonier, Pennsylvania. Hopefully, you all are doing well and you have had a good start to your week. Yeah, we've been super busy. I think that's pretty normal for this time of year. Um, and for us, it's normal all the time. We're always pretty busy. So, yeah, we are getting ready for the holidays. Apparently, there's going to be a winter storm coming. So, that's been a little bit tricksy trying to plan around that. But yeah, hopefully, you all are doing well. If you're watching, say hello and where you're tuning in from. That's always nice to hear where folks are watching. Um, so we had a whirlwind weekend. I don't know if William talked about this at all, but we went down through Kentucky to pick up some equipment for the studio. Um, and let's see, I wanted to say thank you for everybody who picked up something in my little flash sale that I had. That enabled us to get some things for the cottage. We'll show that in the next couple days what we picked up once we get it installed. I've already let a couple people know, but it'll be nice to have an official post once we get everything kind of situated here. Yeah, I don't know. It's been one of those days where it's kind of like a fog. So yeah, so we were, you know, it's that time of holidays, I think they call it. I see a couple folks are watching. Marianne's watching. Hey, Marianne. Amanda's watching. Hey, Amanda. Teresa's watching. Hi, Teresa. Facebook user is watching. Hey, Facebook user. Teresa says joining in from Connecticut. Facebook user says I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona. And Deborah's watching from Louisiana. Amanda says, yes, we have had some storms starting Thursday and going into Friday and Saturday. Norma's watching. Hi, getting cold here in Kentucky for the weekend. Yeah, we were just there in Kentucky, not near you, unfortunately, but it was nice. It was a nice, we actually had a really good time. Um, and we passed through this little town called Hindman, Kentucky. And on our way back, after we picked up our equipment, we made a point to stop back there, and it was super cute. But we noticed that all of the buildings were not all of the buildings, but most of the buildings were all boarded up. And there were these messages like "God bless us" and "We'll be back" and things like that. And we're like, "What? What exactly happened here?" And I guess over the summer there was a really bad flood, and it just really decimated them. It was the reason. One of the reasons why we stopped is because there were all these signs for the art center and the crafts and supporting local artists and things like that. And so it was a really cool little town. It seemed like it was like carved out of the hills. It was really cool, almost out of like a movie or something. And then there was this creek, which is called Troublesome Creek, which is aptly named. And so I guess there was some really bad flooding, and so they're rebuilding. So that's why they've been kind of, you know, I don't know, had a hard time. So eventually we'll go back because I thought it was really charming, and it's not too far out of the way when we go down and visit my sister. So it's just a different route, which was actually kind of nice to take because um, some of the routes that we take to go down to Asheville are like these back country roads, and there are certain times of night and stuff that if we're driving when it's dark and it's just really challenging. So the other road is a little bit more populated and like an interstate. So we might, think about I'm going to try it out. And also I'm going to try it out hopefully when we have a little bit more time and aren't on such a time crunch. We were supposed to go down to see my sister, but that kind of got messed up because we had to be back yesterday. And so instead of just popping down and popping or stopping there for the night, we decided just to drive back. And it was a long drive, but we made it. Susie's watching. Hey, Susie. Suzanne is watching. Hey, Suzanne. Maria is watching. Hey, Maria. Marion says, we are currently frigid, but should warm up for Christmas Day. Well, that's nice. It's supposed to, well, I guess that weather maybe is moving across to where we are because it's supposed to drop really low. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to leave the house. Donna's watching from Florida. Hey, Donna. Sandra's watching from Miami. Hey, Sandra. Susie says it's been foggy and gray today. Now it's raining with dropping temperatures. Ugh. Yeah, it was super sunny here and it was cold, but it's December, so it wasn't too bad here. Julie says, I'm Facebook user. Hey, Julie. You know, I haven't seen other Julie lately, at least not at the same time. Marianne says, hi, Andrew from Greensboro, North Carolina. Hey, Marianne, other Marianne. And Susan says, the flood happened during the night. Several people died. Yeah, I was looking up and I was looking that up, and it was pretty wild how 17 people died. It was pretty sad to see that. So yeah, but hopefully they can kind of rebuild. It looked like a really, really charming town. So we'll definitely be back. I kind of have this fantasy of traveling around the country and maybe all over the world and kind of documenting the stories of different makers and where they're from and where they live and how that kind of influences them. William kind of spearheaded this project called the Allegory Gallery Interviews, and he started that a couple years ago. And one of the questions he asked is, what inspires you? And a lot of times people say nature. And I always kind of, nature is a wonderful source of inspiration, but it's so vague to me. It's like, it's so amorphous in the sense that nature is all around us, it's in the air we breathe and the ground we walk on, and it surrounds us. So my question usually is like, what particularly um, about nature inspires you? And a lot of times it's very regional. It's very specific to a place and sense of that where they live and they're a part of. And so I kind of think that it would be interesting to go around and kind of document these places. Hopefully, not because they will eventually be lost, but I think that there's a power in stories, and there's a power in words and sharing that. So yeah, so maybe one day, someday. I've said that about other things. We've said that about having a store. I said maybe someday, one day, and then it happened. And so yeah. Bonnie's watching. Hey, Bonnie. June's watching. Hey, June. So today I kind of, I don't want to say that I'm having a lazy day. I've just been kind of a little bit scattered with everything going on. We're currently getting ready for Tucson, and that in itself is a big, big thing for us. So we're trying to get ready for that, and it's a big project. And it's a little bit daunting, I won't lie. I'm going to try to get William to help me do the dry setup for the booth. We're going to be showing at the Whole Bead Show at the Annabelle Studio in Tucson, Arizona. It's January 27th through the 1st. I have to check my dates. Sorry about that, y'all. I'm trying also to get into another show, but it's a. We'll see if I can get into that or not. Part of the reason why I'm kind of a little bit discombobulated is because we are. It's very expensive getting ready for these shows, so it's a lot of maneuvering to get things made and manufactured and different things. And some things, I think we'll be able to do, and then some things I don't think we'll be able to do. But we're going to be basically running the laser 24 hours a day, 7 days a week until I leave. We also are going down to North Carolina for the ECU conference. And that's in the middle of January, which is pretty much the right before we're supposed to go leave for Tucson. So that's a little bit daunting when you think about it. And I was like, how does this always happen? And I guess it's not a bad thing, It's not a bad thing. I'm not complaining that our lives are full. Um, it's just sometimes overwhelming, It is what it is. But yeah. Marian's is the 31st. Thank you for checking or knowing. Man says I went for a walk and my whole face froze. Now my sinuses are aching. That sucks a lot. That not my favorite at all. Um, Apparently they said if your nose drops like 15 degrees or whatever from its regular body temperature, your immune system gets compromised. So they said that part of people not getting as sick before, when people were wearing masks more, was that their noses were kept warmer. And I don't know that if this is real. William was telling me about this, so who knows? He reads a lot of articles about random things. I'm like, is that an accredited source? Is it fact checked? Um, which I'm sure he loves. But anyway, so we're getting ready for Tucson, and it's a little bit daunting. There's a lot to do. I wanted to go and see my family down in Florida. All the kids are kind of getting together. Um, but with everything going on, it's just we just couldn't make it work. So that's a little bit of a bummer because I wanted to see everybody. We don't all get to see each other very often, so me and Cynthia, we see each other pretty frequently, once a month usually. But with the rest of the family, it's been a while. So that kind of sucks, but oh well, it is what it is. And in theory, that's going to give me more time to make things for the show coming up. So I guess that's a good thing, So, and William's family is here, so maybe we'll try to do something. However, when he told me how cold it was going to be, I was like, I guess we will have to try to do it on Zoom because I don't know if I'm going to leave the house when it's that cold. Oh, Cynthia's watching. Cynthia says, we're driving to Florida, getting sleepy. Well, don't fall asleep. Where are you? Where are you at in between North Carolina and Florida? Um, yeah, I know that. I don't know if it's dark where you are. It's super dark here. That's the other thing is driving when we were driving back from Kentucky. It was super, super dark. And I was like, I don't know. It could be. I felt at one point we were in West Virginia and I was like, it's dark. I don't know. It feels like we've been driving forever. I'm in the time warp. I'm looking at the clock. The clock doesn't seem to be going down. The miles that don't seem to be going down. So it was there was like this gap of time where it felt like we were in this kind of bubble, this time bubble. But we did finish a book on tape. William, he was not super into it. And then, of course, he kind of like when I was driving, I got to pick. So I was listening to Molly Harper's Witches Get It Done, which is her new book and her new series, her Starfall series. And of course, when he wakes up, they're having the sexy time. And I'm like, does he have like a radar to wake up or walk in the room whenever I'm listening to my paranormal romance books and they're like getting down? I was like, I don't know. I think I was like, do you plan this? Do you plan this, William? To like, and then he like gives me this look. I'm like, I'm driving. I can't be making looks, not like enticing looks, but like tugboat, disapproval looks. He's like, and I was like, I know, I know. All right. They're doing things. And, I'm not going to ruin it for anybody who's going to listen to it. I was like, I personally, I would have done some things differently in this scenario. But, it's fiction, y'all. It's fiction. It's not real. But they were talking about life in a small town, in a small tourist town. And I just laughed and laughed and laughed because I was like, hashtag too close, too soon. Um, but anyways, yeah. Um, let's see. Suzanne says, had to get a new battery yesterday because of the forecasted low temperatures. A battery for what? For your car? I don't know. Um, Cynthia says 40 minutes away. It's surprisingly not that dark. Oh, good. That's good. I'm sorry I didn't get to come and hang out with y'all. I was gonna think about like surprising you and then like just showing up because the flights from Latrobe to Orlando are actually pretty cheap. Um, but we're trying to do. Well, I don't know what we're trying to do. We're trying to do too much, and so that makes it so like we are feels like the scrabbling time, which I hate the scrabbling feeling. Bonnie says it's so cold here, burr. Marianne says another 25 minutes until sunset here. That's pretty wild. Suzanne says yes. June says, did you get your mochico flower? No. And the reason why, okay, so if you didn't see it, we do this creative make long, and sometimes um, uh, it's all the time fun, but June was on it, and we were talking about recipes or something, or making babinka, and so and I was like the muchinko flour, and she's like, "What? What are you saying? What are you?" She's like, "You mean mochiko?" And I was like, "Yeah, the mochinko," and she's like, "That's not how you say it," and so I was like so confused why I was calling it something wrong. And so I looked up my mom's recipe, and her handwritten recipe for it. And she spelled it out the way that I was saying it. So I'm going to pass the blame on to mom because, um, yeah. So that's how it got passed on to me. So I passed on to all of you. But I'll try to say it right now from now on. And it's going to be hard because I've been calling it different for so many years. But, and you would think that I actually just look at the box because it's written on the box. But there you go. Some of the things, y'all. All right. So hopefully, y'all are having a good holiday season. I know it's hard for some folks. This time of year is a little bit hard for us too, because this is when Paolo passed away. So I always get a little bit blue. Last night we were looking at pictures of Paolo and Babette, and because I miss them a lot. Barnaby and Gilbert, they're still up in Adams. Barnaby, he's okay. He's still got his lung issues, which also makes things a little bit tricky when we were trying to plan different things because obviously we don't want him to get sick and one of us not be here. So we may have to change up a couple things that we're doing. But Gilbert, he's getting weirdly territorial. There's these outside cats that keep sniffing around. And so he's like our shy boy, but he is getting like weirdly territorial. and like I think he peed on one of my coats, and I was like, oh, I cannot. Hopefully, this is not another kidney thing because I don't think I have it in me. It's just so hard, especially this time of year, dealing with emergencies, and we've had like one after the other thing happened recently. Like, so I was like, Gilbert, do you have to go to the vet? And we realized that these other cats were coming around and he's like getting triggered or something. And so hopefully he seems to be doing okay. And he's not having like problems going to the bathroom. He's just like peeing whenever he sees the other cats. And so I was like, so we had to close up the catio. Normally we let them go out on the catio. And this is probably TMI, but when have we ever shied away from that here? I don't know. I don't think we've ever shied away from that. So June says, I can bring you a box when I go to Tucson. Well, I'm going to be going down to Asheville, and there are several Asian grocery stores in Asheville. So I'm going to just load up the car and fill it up. And that's what we did when we went out to Allentown. We went out to Allentown recently. Um, and I saw from my eye while we were driving, I saw this yellow and red sign, and my vision's not that great for distance, but I felt the siren song of the Asian grocery store, and so we stopped and picked some stuff up. But we're working through my rations, and I'm like, we're out of our little red bean buns. Are you driving, June, or are you flying? Just Teresa says it could be. It is hard for me because my daughter committed suicide on December 22nd, 2018. I'm sorry, Teresa. That's definitely hard. Our thoughts are with you. That's hard when anybody takes their life, but even harder when it's around this time of year. So I'm sorry, Teresa. Um, and and I don't want to minimize your grief by moving on, but um, I'm gonna try to keep the energy up. So June set, because otherwise, then I'm gonna start crying, and y'all don't want to have a snot festival. They'll be like, somebody new is gonna watch this and be like, what's happening to his face? June says she's driving. Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, we're driving also, but of course from the other end. Well, I'm excited, but there's a lot that we have to do before then. Um, so it's a little bit stressful. Um, and yeah, it's actually a lot stressful. All right, so let's flip this camera around, and you're gonna see the ceiling for a second while I turn the camera around. Hopefully I can get this stand. All the stands have been persnickety lately. I was thinking of redoing the background, but then I kind of am like, well, if I redo the background, then I'm gonna have to do it again. So obviously I used to think that I'd be like the half Asian Martha Stewart, half Asian gay Martha Stewart. Um, but you know what? It's a lot of work, and I don't have a team of people to help me do things like tie ribbons on stuff. Um, so that dream died, but you never know. Maybe one day it will come again. During just while it's on my brain hole, um, we had our creative make along, and I showed my project that I worked on, but I didn't really get a chance to show it closer. And so this is what I worked on. It's these faceted pearls. Now these pearls are available online. at allegorygallery.com. These are beautiful vintage faceted freshwater pearls. And I love the gold of them. So for this project, I did a mixed metal Sarah. It's called Mixed Metals. And I don't know if she's watching, but one time we were on this live and I was like, I want some gold head pins. And she's like, just use the silver ones. And then she's like, it's called Mixed Metals, Andrew. And so, anyways, now whenever I mix metals, I'm going to think of that. So I did a mix of metals. And I love how sometimes people are like, oh, it clashes. But I think it clashes in a nice way because it kind of adds like this optical illusion of bling, which we're going to talk about bling tonight, hopefully, sometime in the future. And it's kind of like a cha-cha style bracelet, I guess somebody called it. But this is kind of like for me, I would do this. When I do this, I add tons and tons more wire wraps, and I call them my fuzzy caterpillar bracelets. But this is kind of like a sad, mangy caterpillar, if that's the case, because you can see the chain, so it's not it's visible. But I think it has a nice little bit of movement. I think if I go back in and add more to kind of fill it out, I'm going to switch up the size of the pearls and maybe do something smaller. Maybe some like ivory colored pearls. I don't know. Or maybe some funky kind of pearls. I don't know. We have this pearl mix in the online store that we just released, and I'm thinking about using some of those in it. But I don't know. What do y'all think? Do you think that would look nice? I think that would be nice to break it up. Those kind of that creamy color, that ivory kind of cream color mixed with the gold and that kind of burnished bronze. I think that would look nice. So yeah. Azalea, our Green Girl Studios says it's Azalea. I love those pearls. Thanks, Azalea. Teresa says, love this, Andrew. Thank you. Miriam says, I like it. Thanks. Sandra says, mangy caterpillar. Yeah, me and my graphic way with words. Fran says, Andrew, I like it. Thanks. Teresa says, that would look beautiful. Thanks. So I think that would be nice to break it up, those cream pearls. So eventually I'm going to do that someday, one day. Um, and if I do, I have some of these kind of pearlescent seed beads. Not all of those are the pearlescent seed beads, but there are these ones. And I think that could be cool in there, mixed in there. So maybe have like one of these little pearls, one of these ones, and then some of that on that to even break it up even more. I don't know. I'll have to play around with it. We'll see. This is not on my how you call priority list. So um, to finish, because we've got a lot of other stuff going on. We have so many plans. So let me raise this back up. All right. So for today's project, I'm going to use 18 gauge bronze wire. I like bronze wire. I think it has a kind of a warm gold to it. I was talking to somebody about this and they're like, oh, I love brass because it looks so modern and contemporary. Um, but I think that there's something that kind of pulls at my heartstrings when it comes to this old kind of the old bronzy color wire. So this is 18 gauge wire, and I may use a little bit of it in 20 gauge. And I might mix in some finer wire. We'll see. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off approximately 6 or 7 inches worth of wire. If I end up with too much wire, it's okay because I can always trim it. Actually, I can't trim it the way that I'm going to do it. So ignore that. Delete, delete, delete. All right, I'm going to use my chain nose plier. These are my chain nose pliers, and these are my round nose pliers. I'm going to use these. I'm going to come down about half an inch or so and bend the wire over, which is going to make this little hook shape. I'm going to insert this back in there, and I'm going to turn this like so, and I'm gently holding it, and I'm going to cinch it so that it's like a little karate chop. All right. And then this is kind of heavier wire. So if you have these smaller pliers, they can work, but generally speaking, if you're working with heavier wire, you should use heavier pliers because the tips can break off. And you wouldn't think that that is possible because it's steel, and some of these tools are tool steel and they're tempered. But sometimes, if you get that enough force and there's impurities in the metal or whatever, it can cause that to snap off. So I'm just going to use this to hold this as like a mandrel. And then I'm going to use my chain nose pliers to wrap this around. All right. So I'm using these pliers because this wire is stiffer. And also, I don't like my fingers to get cut up. And sometimes these little tips can be sharp. And then you don't want that. You're making a margarita and then you slice the lime, and then the hellfire time comes when it starts burning. So skip that. Nobody wants that. um, that's not a Christmas gift that I would want to get. So I'm just going to tuck this down, and yeah, it's easier when you're holding it on the mandrel because you can kind of really get in there and get really tight. And if your loop is off to the side like that, all you have to do is just squeeze it gently. So there you go. Helen's watching. She says, wanted to say hi, listening while making dinner. Oh, good. What are you making for dinner? We had leftover Chinese food. So if you're worried that I gorged myself in the nighttime last night on all of the Chinese, or the night before last, and ate all the Chinese food, don't worry. William still got our leftovers. All right, so I'm repeating that for the other side. I kind of just did it, y'all. I didn't even stop to think to talk about it. That's always the case. We're always wondering what we're gonna be eating for dinner. I'm gonna miss eating dinner at the house with everybody. Though it is tricksy sometimes because we're vegetarians. So my mom, she sometimes likes to try to sneak uh, meat into stuff, and then be like, "Oh, it's just pork." Things like that. That's also called meat. All right. So I got these. I'm done. No, I'm not done. So I put two wire wrap loops on either end, and in theory you could be done if you wanted. You got stuff to do, you got to finish dinner, you can be done if you want. It's up to you. But no. So um Bonnie says spring rolls tonight. Bonnie says, do you eat shrimp? We don't. I don't know why, but it would be delicious. I've been thinking about it. All right. So here's where you kind of go freeform, y'all. So you put your wire wrap loops on either end of this wire, and now here's where you can kind of play around and have fun. So I'm going to use my round nose pliers, and I'm just going to make a loop in here like so, and there you go. I'm going to make a loop. And you could be very mathematical about this. I am not one of those people. So don't look at me if that's what you want, because that's not what you're going to get. All right. And then you can make little, if you use the tip close, if you make use the part closest to the tip of your pliers, you're going to make smaller loops. And you can use that to your advantage. All right. So I got a smaller hole, a bigger hole, a bigger hole, and then I'm probably just going to do a smaller hole to be asymmetrical. What? Not symmetrical. What the heck, yo? No. Um, and then I'm also going to use these pliers to kind of bend this so that I can have some movement in this piece. All right, so that kind of looks like that. It kind of looks terrible right now, y'all. I'm not gonna lie, this does not look excellent. This not does not look currently like my best work. Now, if you are, but we're gonna uh I was gonna say bedazzle this up, but that's not the right word. We're going to bedazzle this up and make it give it a little bit of bling and kind of play around with it. So right now it looks like a little curly Q wire. You're like, what happened? Did it get chewed up? Somebody chew it up and spit it out? No, it's just in process, y'all. All right. Well, Michelle's watching. Hey, Michelle. Donna's watching. Hey, Donna. Marion is going to have a steak. Nice. All right. So I'm actually going to use a thinner gauge wire. This is probably 24 gauge brass wire. And I'm going to cut off this much. You're like, whoa, that's super specific. Maybe 8 inches. And then I'm going to use the tippy tip of this to bend this over like a hook. Y'all, it's like a little hook. And that's going to hook that up. And you don't necessarily have to start on the side. I am though, because it makes, because my wire is a little bit longer. So I'm going to use that to my advantage. All right, so I've got this hooked in like this, and I'm holding this off to the side so my wire doesn't dingle dangle in the way. And then I'm going to take this chain nose plier and I'm going to wrap this around, and I'm going to use what I call an anchor coil or whatever. It's an anchor. And so I'm going to do this really, really tight. It's really, really tight, y'all. Trust me. And then when I get closer, I'm going to curl that in, and then I'm going to squeeze the heck out of it so that it doesn't move around a lot. And it's important that this is pretty tight, because when we are doing all this stuff down here, this can come loose if it's not tight. So if you do it loosey-goosey style, it's going to do that. So right now I'm going to go and be kind of free form. And oh, look, y'all, I'm not using my pliers to do this part. And I'm just going to wire and wrap this around and kind of have a free form to it. If I wanted to, I could pick up a bead. I've got these little metal beads, and I can add a bead into it, put a bead on it, y'all, and wire that into my design. And I think that kind of looks fun. This is more organic style, so if you don't like this, you can always do it more meticulously. Also, if you want more curly cues and more loops, just make your initial wire, that 18 gauge wire, a little bit longer, and it will be longer and you can fit more loops. Now, if you get to the end and you're like, oh, I'm done, you can always trim this, or you can go back through. Now, if you go back through, you are going to lose some of the lightness, kind of the airiness of this. So just keep that in mind. Because if you go back and forth, then it can kind of, it visually, it looks a little bit more chonky. The technical term chonky. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of nestle in between my pieces and pull tighter. Every once in a while, I'm going to give it a little bit of a tug. And I'm using a brass wire for this. And the reason why I'm using a brass wire as opposed to a bronze wire is because there's a little bit more tin and brass. So it's going to give it a little bit of a different color. And that little bit of different color is going to add a little bit of contrast. So it doesn't all just look, it has a little bit of variation in it. And I think that little, it's not like a total. I mean, I don't know if you can see this or not, but you can see kind of that bronze color is more, it has more copper in it, so it's a little bit warmer. And the brass is a little bit like a greeny gold. And so yeah. So it adds a little bit of visual interest. All right. So I'm just gonna keep wrapping this around. I'm not gonna trim it, y'all. I'm just going to wrap it. If you are happy and you want to trim it, go ahead, trim it. But I'm just going to wrap it and not have to worry about that. All right. So I've got this wire. I'm kind of making a wire branch here. And really, though, it's like a chandelier so that I can add embellishments off of this, right? Donna says, I love the organic look. Yeah, some people really like it. Some people don't. So it's up to you and how you do that. Now, what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to figure out what I'm going to put. So the title of this video is Winter Wire Bling. So I thought it might be nice to add a little bit of bling with some crystal. This is not the S word crystal. This is actually Chinese crystal or leaded glass, which some people actually like more because it's sometimes sparkly. Lately, within the last, oh, I can't remember, 10 years or so, there was a thing that got passed in California about lead. And so Swarovski crystal used to be their glass, because crystal is basically glass. Let's call a spade a spade. It's glass with lead in it to make it sparkly. So because that passed, even though it wasn't something that was like a consumable or like something that you would like put in your mouth or whatever, they had to take the lead out of their crystal. So vintage S word crystal is actually more sparkly than contemporary crystal. And the other thing about that, which I think is fascinating, is the reason why some of the crystal is as sparkly as it is now is because they use these specific lasers and refraction programs to kind of figure out how they can cut and mold the crystal so that it is the most sparkliest. I think that's pretty wild. So this is I made this last week. I can't remember. This is a variation on the one that I showed, the pearl cluster, which somebody liked that pearl cluster and I actually sent it out. Somebody bought it from me, so that was a surprise. Normally I keep my samples, but I was like, I guess I can whip another one up. But anyways, so I made it. This is like that cluster. And so I opened this strand of beads. So I'm going to use the remainder of that or part of that remainder on my project today. So that was a long way of saying I'm going to use these crystals because I already had them going. Um, Amanda said, I made keema aloo and it was good. I don't know if I know what keema aloo is. I'm guessing an Indian because we get the gobi aloo, but I'm not sure. Helen says, trying a new vegetable soup and Margie Mac homemade mac and cheese for the kids. That sounds good. Janice is very interesting info on the S word crystal. Thanks for sharing. Teresa says, I love that design. Oh, good. Thank you. Bonnie says, remind me of the ball at Times Square. Yeah, somebody else said that. I think Diane said that when was it me that showed it or William showed? I don't know. And Norma says, I got a lengthy phone call just when you started talking about stopping in Hinman, Kentucky. So I missed at least a half hour or 45 minutes of talk and demo. I'll have to go back and hear what I missed. Um, Basically, that we had stopped through and it was nice, and we'll probably stop back through. My friend has a restaurant in Bria. And when I initially looked on the map about going there and stopping, um, it did not line up with our schedule. But then I realized it was just 2 hours away. But since it was a down and up trip, we couldn't stop and get there anytime. So I think maybe on my way back to Tucson, I don't know if I have anything scheduled. Of course, I always have stuff on my schedule, y'all. Let's call this, let's be honest. My schedule lately, it is redonkulous. It's just one thing after the other after the other. Um, Used to be, I tried to get, I tried so hard to do anything I could to remove any kind of obligation on my schedule. And then nowadays, I'm like, what happened? At what point did I turn away from having this? It's probably poverty what did it. Not that I'm impoverished, but I definitely the lack of funds is an encouraging thing to make you pick up extra work. But anyway, so I might try to stop by on our way back or on my way back and stop there and hang out. And if I can do it, I'm going to try to line up some interviews. I'm not like a camera person or anything, or like a professional journalist. Like, I'm not Diane Sawyer's, y'all. But that might be fun to do some interviews. And the reason why I'm thinking of that place particularly is because we were just there. And so, anyways, um, Sylvia says, so do the Chinese crystals do have lead in them, but do not refract the light? No, Sylvia, the Chinese crystals actually have lead in them, so they are particularly sparkly. And sometimes they bootleg Swarovski's refractions, so they are particularly oh, I said the S word. I'm not supposed to say that. Well, oh well. That's like a history lesson, y'all. Daniel Swarovski started the company in 1903. No, whatever. Um, so I'm gonna use these. I mean, these are sparkly, y'all. And I'm going to kind of arrange these so that I have to think about balance. So since this side has more, if I load this up and make these super heavy, my pendant or earring or whatever is going to go off to the side, right? Like that. It's going to bend down to the side. It's going to bend down to the mountain. So I'm going to want to have heavier components on this side since there are more on this side. So if I do that, I can't go and just do them straight across because if I do them straight across like this, it's gonna be Wonka Doodle, all right? Because it's not in the center, and it's gonna be like this. Ooh. And then they're gonna be somebody's gonna look at that and then be like, what's happening here? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna probably do. Let's maybe get some of them pearls out since I've got some. Waste not, want not, y'all. And I'm going to take this and maybe put some of this in here too. Add a little bit more energon on that side, a little bit of contrast. Um, so I'm going to put this with maybe this. I'm going to work on an odd number. So I'm going to add 3 or so. And this will probably hang down a little bit lower. So whenever you're designing like this, it's very kind of intuitive, and not everybody likes that flavor of designing. Some folks, they like it where it's mathematical and very precision based. um and I get it. Sometimes you get a pattern and you're like, what are they trying to tell me with this? um and so I think, you have to do what works best for you. All right. So I have this little clear bead. And I think this is actually one of the beads that they put like as a stop bead, so your beads don't fall off the strand. But I think it looks a little bit sparkly and nice. So I'm going to add that. And then I'm also going to add this little metal, these little brass metal size 8 seed beads. And I'm going to just kind of lay things out in a way that I think is like appealing to me. I think it's when it comes to style. I kind of talked about this yesterday. It all just depends. Like some people are more minimalist. They don't like that extra, like that bold look. But for other people, they want as much bling or as much kind of uh, extra as they can. And so, you kind of have to find out what works best for you, or if you're designing for a customer, what works best for your client. If you're designing something for a very conservative kind of business place, and they have very kind of minimal kind of style or whatever, you're gonna have to kind of, you know, play the game, so they say, and design stuff that's going to be appropriate for that. If that's your customer. All right. So I think I'm going to. I have this gold plated pewter piece, and I love this piece. This is an AG Allegory Gallery pewter piece. And it's like a feather or a leaf. And I just want to put that on like everything. But like once I made a kit and I had that in there, and he was like, "Oh, I see you use that component again. Don't you want to give some of the other components a chance?" And I was like, "No, I want to give it. I want to do what I want to do." So you can do these a couple different ways. You can string these up on head pins if you want, which I'm probably going to do. You can also use a flexible beading wire. Um, I'm not going to do that because I can't find my gold crimp tubes. So that's my determining factor of why I'm not doing that. But you kind of have to do what speaks to you. I think I might try to put this little. I have this opalescent white piece, so I might try to put that. Or is that's that's too out of it. I do have this little freshwater pearl gold star. It's kind of like not really a star shape. It's kind of like a little star cereal puff marshmallow because it kind of blew out in the bottom side. Um, Man, this is a bead lady compiled some photos and research comparing S crystals and others, and some were amazingly close to the S crystals. I think I saw that there. And I think their big thing was finding replacements for some of the colors, because a lot of the reason why some of the other designers are so upset is because they made a livelihood out of making patterns using S word crystals in their designs, and they just assumed that that would always be a reliable source because it had lasted for hundreds of years. and now all of a sudden they're doing something different. So I think I saw that, and and it was kind of like a comparison, but also as like a replacement for people who were designers and looking to um, swap out different crystals for ones that are other commercially marketable marketed crystals like Preciosa or the Chinese crystals or whatever. So it's fascinating to see, as our business has never been part of one of the reasons why we didn't buy contemporary crystal a lot is because, for one, we couldn't get the price breaks that some of the other people who buy in like hundreds of grosses can get. We would buy maybe a gross and then break that up and then sell it onesie twosie style or like a bag of 10. But so that's never been like a cornerstone of our business. So for us, it's not like a big thing. But for some of the folks who that was all they did, that's the whole thing. All their business was based on that. Um, then I can see, why they're less finding it interesting and finding it more disgruntling than anything else. But, anyways, I digress. All right, so this is kind of my pattern so far. I've got more weight on this side, obviously, so that it will kind of weigh down a little bit more to balance this out. Now, another trick is that if you want to add weight, um, but maybe not so visually, what you can do is instead of doing one head, oh, I got too distracted with myself, y'all. If you want to add weight, but you don't want to maybe have it actually be visually weighty. Another thing that you can do is add wire wrap links, and that adds a little bit more weight because you're creating those coils and those wraps, and those kind of they add up in weight as well as add a little bit of airiness because you've got those loops. So it's not all, oops, I'm getting wild, y'all. Um, that's the thing about trying to do something on when you're looking in the camera is that sometimes your depth can get a little bit off. But, anyways, so here I go. I'm going to string up a couple of these and then keep going and then see what we see. And one thing to be mindful of is that the pearls have relatively small holes. So you're just going to have to take that into consideration. Oh boy, there was a hole in that bag of head pins, and now they're all over the floor. So that'll be fun tomorrow. No, probably later tonight. So what I'm going to do is I've got these head pins. These are just brass head pins. And I'm going to use these to string up this component. And I've got this little um, metal seed bead. I love these. Um, I can't help it. I can't quit them. I don't want to quit them. I'm not going to quit them. But I think that is a nice little bit of sparkle. What do y'all think? Look how that makes the crystal picks up that glow of that gold bead at the bottom, and it kind of lights it up from below. What do y'all think about that? Let's see if it does it with this. If we cap it like that. Yeah. What do y'all think about that? It's like witchcraft, y'all. Bling bling. All right. So I've got this. I'm going to make this into a wire wrapped loop. And I'm going to give myself, normally I try to go really close to the crystal or whatever I'm wrapping, but I'm going to give myself a little bit of extra leg room here and make that so that it hangs down a little bit further. How about it? And then I'm just going to attach this. I didn't close it up yet. I don't know if y'all saw that. I went so fast. You may not have seen it. If you've made a lot of jewelry, you'll be like, oh my gosh, here he goes. And he'll slow it down even slower. All right. So I just made my loop here, but I didn't wrap that close. And I'm just going to add this like this. Now, if you get distracted, you watching TV and they getting wild on the Desperate Housewives or whatever, you can always just use a jump ring and use that to attach it as your point of connection. So if you don't want to do it again, say you've only got 5 head pins and left, and you really had to make those 5 head pins work, then there you go. Money is magic. Now you see it, now you don't. William says, I'm out and about. Do you want white cardstock? No, I want blue, like the cover of You Know What. That's very vague, but for anybody who gets or red, but kind of a dull red and thicker, you know, just picture in your mind what I'm trying to do, and then put that in your mind, and then when you're making your selection, then you'll know. Also, maybe pick up pizza because I've been craving pizza. I don't know, y'all. And maybe I better stop. I'm like, and then sorbet. All right, so I'm using this. I'm holding this still, and then I'm going to wrap this around. And I'm being very careful not to crack the other stuff. And then when I get to the end, I'm going to curve this in so that when I'm tucking this tail in, it's gonna wrap around real nice and easy. All right. Here we go. Yeah. So I'm trying to the head pins are a little bit stiffer, so and normally it doesn't matter, but I don't want that to crack off. All right, what do y'all think? Done? No, not done. All right, Amanda says, "Are you pregnant?" Well, we had been talking about maybe getting a human child, but I don't know. I'm like, so I don't know. We talked about it, but I don't know. We'll see. It's harder when you're a homo because you can't just like accidentally happen, like it just you don't get like surprised. It's not like anybody's gonna like leave a baby on our doorstep and I get to keep it. Um, so like there's no finders keeper. I read some book and then they're like, yeah, they had the baby and they just found the baby and raised it as their own. I was like, in what world do you just find a baby and raise the baby and nobody asks any questions, especially if it's like an elderly person? And I was like, I don't know if that's super realistic. All right, so I cut off a piece of 24 gauge wire. There's about three inches of that wire, and I'm going to create a wire wrap loop here at the bottom. I'm going to wrap a coil 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And I am not going to keep going. You're going to be like, what? Why not just go all the way? And I'm going to be like, no, not going to do it. And I'm going to put this over my freshwater pearl. And Cynthia says, the fam says, hey, well, hello there. Hopefully, y'all are having a good time. I'm sorry we couldn't be there. It would have been nice. I thought about surprising you all, but then, um, you know, that would be, like one of those commercials where they have the coffee in the morning and pajamas. All right. So I'm making my wire wrap loop again, but on the other side, and this side, we can go all the way. I did not wrap all the way because I'm doing what's called a messy wire wrap. And if you wrap all the way on one side first, and then you try to do the messy wire wrap, it's going to be wonkadoodle, uneven Steven, where it does not look good at all. Well, I mean, if it's truly organic, it doesn't matter, right? But I don't want that, so I'm going to do it like this. So that way, this is will be even when we come down to it. My sister Sheila says, "We miss you guys," from Sheila. We miss you too. One of these days, you're not that far away. One of these days, we'll get together. There's a place called the Morgan Conservancy. I think that's what it's called. And they do paper, and it's in Cleveland. And I'm like, I like paper, so maybe I'm gonna do that. Oh, Boulder Dash, I forgot. Um, I was supposed to hook this up to this, but I didn't do it. Oh wow, I got distracted, y'all. It happens. So I'm just gonna show you what I meant before when I was talking about how if you have if you get distracted, which I did, then here's another trick. Say you don't have any jump rings that small or in that color that you want, you can always use a little bit of chain, especially if it is a split. If it's not a solder chain, it's way easier. If it is soldered, you just cut it. But so I've got this and I need this. I want to go hunt for jump rings. I'm just going to take that little loop of chain off because that's basically what that is. And I'm going to use that to connect this to my little chandelier component. I'm actually going to get this so that I can close this up easier. All right. Because when we're opening and closing jump rings, we want to make sure that we don't distort the loop um, because we can create kind of brittle spots in that and it will distort the shape and it will never close up and be a loop again. And so I want it to close up and be one. So, and if there's a gap, see, I can see there's light in between. I'm just going to go over it and then come back and that should tighten it up, and then I'm going to squeeze it, and there you go. That's the bootleg way of how to have a jump ring when you don't have a jump ring and you need a jump ring. All right. Bonnie says, Cynthia, I'm wearing a heart piece from you with wings and stitches on the heart, giving me strength after the surgery. Oh, that's good. Um, William said, there's no blue, pastels, neon, and white. Just surprise me. We'll have our own thing. It was supposed to look like a certain thing, but oh well, whatever. So I'm gonna get another head pin out, and I'm gonna add that. Maybe pie. What do y'all think? I'm in the mood for pie, y'all. And I'm gonna get that heavier head pin because that one didn't wanna work. It was like, nope, not gonna do it. So I've got this a little slightly heavier gauge head pin. I'm guessing a 20 gauge head pin, and then I'm gonna add this crystal, and then I'm gonna hang that off of the bottom here, right? William said, nah, that's what I'm afraid of. What kind of pie? I'm in the mood for like a custard pie, y'all. I don't know. And then I'm gonna give myself a little bit extra here, that so that I can have that coil pie and cardstock, y'all. Marianne's like, what? Pie and cardstock? Pie because why not, right? I'm body positive, so it's fine. Um, and um, and then cardstock for secrets. Secrets, y'all. All right, so you may notice when I wire wrap, sometimes, especially when I got these extra dingle danglies, like this, I extend this finger, and the reason why is it keeps that work from getting in the way, right? Kathleen says, I'm from Indiana. Sugar cream pie is our state pie. I would like to try that pie. I've never had that, but I would like to try it. I love pie. I love cake. I made a coconut cake last night, y'all. I was gonna make babinka, but then I didn't have the mochiko, so so we had not that. Um, so basically, yeah, we did. Yeah, we did not have babinka. And babinka, if you're wondering what that is, it's a Filipino dessert, which is like slightly custardy because it's like a mochi. I looked up a recipe for butter mochi, and it's basically the same thing except babinka is a little bit wetter. And I'm kind of in the mood for fried chicken. Bonnie says, "Oh, that's my favorite coconut cake." Um, Marion says, "I have a little apple pie that I'm going to have with some cheddar cheese." I've never had that before, but I wouldn't be afraid to try it. So this is what we have so far. After 1 hour and 11 minutes, this is what we've done. Kathleen says, my grandma ate a green onion with her apple pie. I think it's an Irish thing. I don't know what that's called. That's not that, that's not for me. But there are some onions that are super sweet, and I could see that. But I don't know. Just have just eat some sour cream and onion chips after. Maybe I just invented something. You crumble that up and put that on top and get that real strong hit of savory. One time we went out to dinner with one of our suppliers, and they were the specific kind of yogi. And if you are that specific kind of yogi, um, you know, kudos to you. This is not to disparage you or anything, but apparently, we went to this pizza place and they couldn't have onions or garlic, and they said that it inflamed them and was too grounding or earthy or spicy, inspired their red chakra or something. And I was like, okay. And so they're like, so is there stuff in the sauce? And then they're like, yeah, there's garlic and onions in our sauce. So then they're like, so can we have it without the sauce and without any? So basically, they ate bread for dinner. It was super awkward. But now I have a story about going to a pizza place with people who don't eat garlic or onions. Um, Amanda says, "Are they Jan?" I don't know. Amanda says, "Onions and garlic ignites passion." Wow. Who would have thought? Maybe that's why I use so much garlic, so that I am secure in my I don't know. Here we go. Anyways, my family's watching, so I can't make this too weird. Not that that stopped me before. Um, all right, so I'm going to string up. I'm going to add another head pin on this side, and I'm going to add this kind of similar. I like to take elements whenever I'm designing, even if it's asymmetrical. I do like to build in some kind of consistency in my design. So there is a little bit so that when you see the things, it doesn't look too off. So sometimes I'll use elements that are similar or the same and use those as repeating motif so that it kind of makes sense to your eye. when you have things that are completely different and are juxtaposed and are it can be a little bit jarring. So, and that can be cool too. You know, you kind of have to use use what you've got and use the tools at your disposal. And if that's something that you're looking for, you know, and you're looking for something that's really going to be like a jarring to your senses, or kind of have a design that's a little bit more chaotic, um, in nature, which is not a bad thing, um, then do that. Use that. Use elements that are there are no repeating patterns in them. But for me, I kind of, even if I am working with an asymmetrical design or something that is a little bit different, I do have that repeating kind of form language, as they say. So this little guy, I've repeated that here and here and here, and that's going to make sense visually. All right, it's you're going to be like, what is he even talking about this? And it's a design hack, y'all. If you want there to be a cohesiveness throughout your design, you build in little spots that are familiar. And so I've cut off a length of that 24 gauge wire. I'm using this wire as opposed to the bronze wire because it is and I'm not going to forget this time. I'm going to add this to this. But I'm using this because it fits through the pearls a little bit more. Um, I see a couple people talking about pie, y'all. Amanda says, Norma, at this point, I take any pie. You know, I've had onion pie and it was delicious. It wasn't like a sweet pie. It was like sweet because it had caramelized notes to it, but it was basically if you took like French onion soup and made it and put it in a pie crust, which I don't know, that was delicious. It was like so wonderful. Maybe I'll do that again. William, if you're still at the grocery store, pick up some onions and some pastry dough. And no, I don't make my own pastry dough, y'all. We already talked about how I'm not half Asian Martha Stewart. Um, and I think even Mary Berry on the Great British Bake Off show, she's like, I buy it. She's like, who's got time to be making pastry dough? Um, Sylvia says, your creation makes me think of the beautiful pins for a lapel on a sweater or a coat. You could definitely use it for that. Um, Donna says, Amanda and Norma, same here. Norma says, I love pie and I'm hungry. Me too. Amanda says, I'm making pumpkin pies on Saturday and Monday. We ordered a pumpkin pie from this kid. He he is trying to go skiing and they didn't have the money, so we bought a pie so that hopefully he can get to go skiing. Norma says, at this point, I'm about ready to make a pumpkin pie not right now. Bonnie says, pot pies are so good. Yeah, our grocery store used to make these chicken pot pies, and they were so good. Um, Marion says, I like a pork pie too. Donna says, I don't make handmade pie crust either. You know, pie crust is not something that I was gifted with ever. I've tried so many times. I can do maybe a graham cracker pie crust because it's all just graham crackers smashed with butter. Um, but otherwise, I don't know. I don't have that gift. One of my friends, she's saying that she uses vodka in her pie crust, and basically, she said that that's the secret to having this like super flaky crust. And I tried it, and apparently, I didn't know what I was doing because I had the soggy bottom, as they say on the Great British Bake Off. And I was like, I don't know about this. But so yeah, there you go. Let me pick a different. That pearl is a little bit off to the side, which is not a problem. But I kind of, for this part, I do want it to have a little bit sit in the center with this because I am working with balance. It's basically like I'm making a mobile, but small. So I just strung out that faceted freshwater pearls. If you're looking for faceted freshwater pearls, I got them. I got them online in the online store right now for your purchasing pleasure and delight. I can't send you pie, but I've got faceted freshwater pearls, and those are all can be found at allegorygallery.com. In case you're watching from the TGBE, we had somebody watching from the TGB the other day, and they're like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "Well, let me tell you a story." Anyway, so here you go. I made a snowman. Amanda says onion pie, pork pie. I'm learning about new pies. Oh, let me tell you about something called the tomato pie. That's like I've never had that besides here in Pennsylvania, and it's good. It's a savory pie. Marianne says steak and kidney pie too. That's more British pie, isn't it? With like a hot water pastry crust. Donna says, Bonnie, I made homemade chicken pot pie tonight and it's yummy. Bonnie says, my mom makes the best pie crust. She swears by Crisco shortening. You know that? It's not something that I haven't heard before. Somebody was also saying that to get the best pie crust, they use lard. Um, and their pies were delicious. But as a vegetarian, I don't know how I feel about that. So um, I was like, I just kind of have to like turn a blind eye on this one because the pie is so good. Um, but you know, anyway, so I'm gonna make a wire wrap loop here at the top, and that's gonna connect to my main component. And you may be wondering why I did not just go straight across. And the reason why is I'm trying to accomplish balance, and that can be tricky when you're using these multi strand components where there's a lot of when you're working with multi strand for one and then also when there's different points of connection. So I've got some pieces that have wire wraps in them, and it's not an even thing. It's not one and one and one. You know, you have to kind of play around with it and find the right kind of balance. All right. Um, oh my, I see. I'm missing all this pie talk, y'all. Talking about bees. What the heck? We're gonna have a pie conversation, creative pie make along. You know what? Beads of Courage, which is bringing it back to beads. They have an annual pie day, and Jean's mom, she used to make lots of pies, and it's kind of a remembrance of their mom who passed away. And so they have a pie day, and they actually have a cookbook which you can get at Beads of Courage, and it's round shaped, so it doesn't fit on your bookshelf really well, but that's okay. And but it is laminated, I believe, so so you don't have to worry about the pages getting stained. That's one thing about like I don't know about y'all, but when I'm using a cookbook, I'm like, how come these pages are not glossy? It's gonna get stained all to get out if I get anything on this. All right, so I'm just wrapping this around and finishing up this messy wire wrap on this freshwater pearl here. And I'll tell you a story. So one time, I'm going off script, y'all. One time, a long time ago, when we were kids, my grandma was frenemies with this woman named Mrs. Bozier, Adeline Bozier. And we went over to her house for dinner, and all the kids who were there, it was like me and my sisters and my cousins. We went over there, and she was a good cook, y'all. Adeline Bozier, good cook. I don't know if she's still alive, but she was a good cook. And so she made this strawberry rhubarb pie, and it was so good, y'all. And all the kids were like moaning as they were eating. And then I remember I was like, I'm going to call you Grandma Bozier. And my grandma, she had a little bit, how you call it, a competitive streak. And I didn't know, I didn't realize at the time, but she probably did not like me doing that. And so she kind of reared up and was like, well, fine. So she got in this mind that she's gonna make a strawberry rhubarb pie. And this is before the internet, y'all. So this is not like you go on to epicurious.com and then Google recipe for strawberry rhubarb pie. You had to have, you had to know how to do it. And I don't know if y'all know this, but rhubarb can be pug nasty if you don't fix it right. If you don't leach out the poison in it, it can be so bitter. It feels like it takes the enamel off your teeth. It's not something, not an easy ingredient if you don't know what you're doing. Anyway, so she, for like a week, she was like fixated that she was going to beat Adeline Bozier at making strawberry rhubarb pie. And uh, she got to the point where she stopped cooking anything else. And my grandpa, he was like, "What is going on here?" And he was like, I can only eat the hot dog boiled in the water so many times before." He's like, "Arlene, what you doing?" And so eventually she's getting kind of discouraged, because also strawberry rhubarb pie, you can if you don't do the cream filling right, it can do what's called break, or it can crack. And it's like, I think it's from over whipping it. I'm not sure, but it can split, and it can kind of have a weird texture that's not how you want to do it. Also, I think she was using like canned strawberries or something, and they weren't the fresh ones, and that can also turn, it makes a difference. And then so eventually Cynthia, she uh got her big brown eyes out, the biggest, brownest eyes, and she went over to grandma and she was like, "Grandma, please, can you make me some pumpkin pie? Some pumpkin pie?" She's like, "That's my favorite pie, pumpkin pie." And grandma, it melted grandma's heart, and ceased the vendetta, and then we could eat other things than failed strawberry rhubarb pies. So that's that story. Doesn't have anything hardly to do at all with what we're doing with this wire winter bling, but there you go. Dennis's tomato pie is famous pie here in Alabama too. And Suzanne says tomato pie is good. Marion says very British. Norma says, "Oh my gosh, tomato pie is good. We have it in Kentucky." Teresa's starting my second pie, Boston cream, my husband's favorite. That does sound good. Bonnie says trans fat dough for the lard. Amanda says tomato pie. I need to expand my horizons. Donna says Teresa. Oh gosh, that sounds delicious. Donna, yummy. Amanda, Teresa's Amanda. I make my tomato pie Southern style like my mama. That's good. Marianne says I use Crisco when I make pie crust. Sometimes it works great. Sometimes it doesn't. And then there's more talk about tomato pie. And Donna says, Amanda, I'll have to look up a recipe, but it has cheese in it too, just at the bottom of the crust. It's basically like a really good, I don't know how to describe it. Like there's fresh basil in the ones that we get sometimes. And it's just really, it tastes like summer. I don't know how to describe it. All right. So this is what we got going so far, in case people are still watching. Um, and I'm gonna kind of even. Here's another little sneaky little trick: is if you want your dangles to lay straight and not be weeble wobbly and twisted turning, you have to make sure that your loops on either end, are on the same plane. If you have a loop that's on one way and on one axis, and then you have a loop on another axis so that they make a cross, it will naturally want to turn. It's got this it's got this force in there that's going to want to make it turn like a cyclone, and whenever your pieces, they're going to start getting tangled. And so whenever I'm making chain or doing something like that, especially wire wrap link chains, I make sure that my links, the loops on each link, are all on the same plane. Sometimes when you're doing a design, you can't fudge it, or you have to fudge it a little bit and you have to twist it. But for this kind of thing, it's super important because it will tangle up. I'm telling you, it will tangle up. And then you're gonna be like, what? So when you're designing this kind of piece, every once in a while, you're going to need to take something like this and weigh it out. So clearly, yeah, I don't know if you can see it from this side, but clearly this side is heavier. So we need to add more weight to this side so that it balances out. Like I said earlier, it's basically like we're making a mobile. Now, how do y'all say mobile? A mobile. Do you say a mobile? Like Mobile, Alabama? Mobile? I don't know. One of my favorite artists is Alexander Calder, and I love his jewelry for one. If you follow me on Instagram, I added a piece that he did in his store to my stories, and I just love his work, especially his jewelry work, because he used such unconventional materials. Like I think the necklace that I posted was all like bones, which when people think of Calder, they don't necessarily think of that. So he did. One of the reasons why he did stuff like that is he was creating during wartime when metals he didn't have easy access to metals, so he had access to a lot of wire, and so a lot of his pieces back then were all wire based. And one of the stories that I love so much is that one time he got a gallery show, and I can't remember what show or what gallery it was, but it was a super famous gallery at the time. And he shows up, and he's this unassuming old white man. And the gallery person's like, "So where's the art?" And he has a suitcase, and he's like, "It's in here." And he's like, "You have to fill the entire gallery, and you brought a suitcase? What's going on here?" And he's like, "Well," and so he opens up the suitcase, and it's full of wire. And the guy's like, "Oh my gosh, what's happening here?" And so the next thing that happened was he made these sculptures out of wire, and he made these kinetic sculptures. There's these very famous kinetic sculptures of Josephine Baker dancing, that he made. And so, anyways, that's one of the Calder stories. I don't know how real that is, but that's the story I was told once upon a time. Um, oh, let's see. Marion says, love that story. Marion Dalton says, my daughter in law comes from a large family. At Thanksgiving, they divide all the leftovers and make layered turkey pies for everyone to take home. That's nice. Teresa says his jewelry is awesome. Kathleen says mobile. Marion says mobile. Um, Donna says mobile. That's interesting. It's like when people are on the cell phone and then they're on their mobile. All right. So I've got this so far. And like I said, this side is heavier, so it wants to hang down to this. So we're going to add this to kind of counterbalance. So when you have these kind of dingle dangly chandelier action time, it's important that you get that balance just right. Otherwise, it can hang down real low. And if you factor that in, then that's not a problem. The problem is when if you don't factor that in and you expect it to act a certain way, and then it doesn't. So I think it's always good to be cognitive of that, so that you can fix it, you can adjust it, just add a little bit more weight. Sometimes it's just a bead here or a wire wrap there, and you can really change the way that it hangs and drapes. So I'm making another wire wrapped link here for this pearl. And I'm going to attach this part with this little leaf component. I don't know if these are on the website or not. They are a part of the Allegory Gallery Fine Pewter line. So I don't know if William has those or not, but I love them. Yeah, I love them. I'm going to make a piece and it's all going to be these little leafy feather things. Um, all right. Hopefully, y'all have some festive plans. Or not. Sometimes the best plans are no plans. One year, we were so exhausted from doing everything at the store and everything else. We just went to Sheets and got some, which is a gas station that makes food, and just had dinner from there, our holiday dinner. And sometimes, you have to do that. It's when things get a little overwhelming, just step back and because I used to cook a lot more, and I cook a okay amount now. But before, I used to make stuff and make stuff from scratch like all the time. Um, and now I don't know. I we were a bit very busy, so I don't make as much stuff from scratch anymore. Um, which I don't know how I did it before because I used to do it. I don't know. I think also I got burnt out cooking too. But anyways, so I'm just attaching this wire wrap link using this freshwater pearl, this faceted freshwater pearl. Like I said before, if you're hunting for faceted pearls, you can find them on our website at allegorygallery.com. I know that they are not as readily available as they used to be, so it can be sometimes tricksy to find good quality ones. Nowadays, I've seen people do faceted pearls, but they facet them to disguise bad pearls. Um, and what I mean by bad pearls is the pearls are sometimes they don't let them uh, develop as many layers of nacre or nacre. Um, as they would if they didn't facet them. And so they use these cheaper pearls that have only a few layers, and sometimes you can get some faceted pearls and then like stuff is like chunked off. Now, every once in a while, even with good quality faceted pearls, there'll be sometimes an area will flake off or they'll cut too much. They'll cut away too much. But on the junky strand, if you ever see a junky strand of faceted pearls, you'll know what I'm talking about because it looks chewed up, like somebody got mad at it and got in a fight. Um, so if you are hunting for good quality faceted pearls, I know somebody who's got them, aka me. All right, so I've got this like so, and I'm gonna do a little test right now to make sure that this hangs properly. And it's actually pretty even, which kind of ruins up on my plan for adding this other crystal right here. But I might add another crystal dangling down from here. So we'll see. All right. I'm not going to be on too much longer. I know y'all got things to do, pies to make. So I don't want to keep you from Pie-a-palooza. Because I don't know. Somebody try to keep me getting between me and the good pie, then there might be trouble. There might be trouble. Donna says everyone is coming to my house for Christmas, but all I have to make is a ham and deviled eggs, and everyone has been assigned a dish, dessert, or tea. Not killing myself either. Yeah, that's smart. Um, yeah, I've been in positions where I've been the host and I've been making stuff from scratch and I have to start like days in advance. Um, and I don't know. That I can't I don't know. I used to think that was fun. I don't think that's as much fun anymore. I don't know what happened. Something happened. I reached a certain point in my life and entertaining. I used to love to entertain and have parties and get-togethers, and now I'm like, well, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But no need to cry over spilled milk. All right, so I'm gonna hold this off to the side while I'm wire wrapping. And I don't know if you all like this design style or not. It is a little bit more wire heavy, um, but you know, it's fun. I like that you can do sculptural things with a wire. Um, and that's one of the things that appeals to me is that you can impart a lot of texture and movement into a piece and not have a ton of tools, and you can kind of just and also it's not something that you have to have a lot of. I mean, if you do some things that are more complicated, then you do have to have that kind of information, but it's something that you can kind of just play around with, and you know, it kind of works. All right. Donna said it's like that for me at Thanksgiving, but I enjoy it. Bunny said that happened to me too. Donna says it is beautiful. Teresa says love this, Andrew. Thank y'all. So I'm gonna add one more element, and that's because this is a little bit crooked when it hangs, and I want to add something kind of sweet, and a little bit different. Maybe I'll add that, or is that too jarring? Maybe I'll look for something else real quick. I'm just pulling from my collection off to the side here. If you do have that new mix, that new pearl mix, I've added a lot of little pearls to it. Some are freshwater pearls, and some are glass pearls, and even there's a couple plastic pearls in there. Um, and these are little rice pearls. And I think they're just sweet. You know, they're just so charming. And they've got a little bit of texture. I don't know if Cynthia's told you about this before, but we were in Tucson, and this dude was trying to sell us these Mississippi pearls, and they look like this, except small. And Cynthia's making these little treasure necklaces where she had these glass baubles, and they would kind of fit, like she would fill them up with these little giblets that would shake around. And yeah, they were, when he gave us the price, they were out of our budget. And she was like, I can't put that in a necklace and then resell it for that because you know, they were not how you call it inexpensive. All right. I think I'm going to use that. That speaks to me. I'm going to put this on my head pin. This is a smaller gauge head pin, but I don't know if it's going to be small enough. I'm going to hold this close to it and then kind of rock this back and forth, twisting it so that it slides onto this head pin. Because sometimes pearls are not always evenly drilled. Sometimes, so you don't have blowout on one side, they'll start on one side and then start drilling the other side. And then sometimes that doesn't always, it'll connect and it'll be enough to get onto the onto the string, but it may not be enough um, to go through a very heavy gauge wire. All right. So I think what I'm going to do to balance this out is I'm going to get a jump ring, maybe a texture jump ring, and add that. I think that would look nice. Let me get one real fast. I know exactly where it is. Here's my jump ring tray, y'all. And I love these texture jump rings, so I'm going to use one of these texture jump rings. These ones, you can make them yourself, but it's so much easier to buy them. And basically what they do to make that is they coil the wire around. Now, is this soldered? Only one way to find out. And it looks like it is soldered, y'all. So I could cut that, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to plan B it and use a different one. I've got a lot to pick from. All right, so I've got this one. I love these. These are kind of a satin gold. So if you said add another AG metal leaf, or will it be too close to the other one? I think it'll be too close. I mean, if I added it in there, it would be fine. And it might actually be good to have a central access point like that. But I think I'm going to do this. Now, if you have your wire, I have a wire coil here, and I'm just going to adjust this so that I can get in there. And I might just hang it off of the wire, because originally I was going to put this wire through here, but that may close up some of the clearance. Can you see that? It may close up some of that hole. So I don't know if I want to do that or not. A lot of this technique, since it's very intuitive and very organic, you just have to try things and see if they work or not. If they don't work, you just take it off. It's not the end of the world. And if it does work, then good. If it doesn't work, then oh well, try again. And I know some people, when they have a design, when they're designing, they don't particularly like that because you have to trust your gut a lot of times. And it can be hard to do that sometimes, to trust yourself that that's the right solution. But, it's a fun thing for me. I like it. It's like a game of problem solving where you're trying to see if this will work. If this will work, then good. If it doesn't work, then you just try again, change the permutations or the recipe and see if that works or not. So if you didn't see what I just did, I took this tiny, tiny jump ring and I put it underneath that wire wrap coil. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'm going to close that up and I'm going to use that to dangle my pearls off of. And try not to spill that tray of jump rings. Talk about 5 gold rings, y'all. All right, so this will hang off to the side just a little bit, and that's not a problem. But I am going to take that, and I'm going to take my wire, my chain nose pliers, or the round nose rosary pliers, and use that to create this little dangle. All right. I'm going to test this out, and we're going to see, y'all. Maybe it'll be the winner. Maybe it will not be. Winner, winner, chicken dinner, or maybe terrible. We're going off script, y'all, as they say on the internet these days, and then have slides ready. And if you don't know what story I'm referring to, I took this social media boot camp thing, and the guy was like, "We're going off script. I'm gonna tell you something. I wasn't planning on telling anybody else. I'm going completely off script, y'all." And then he had slides and pictures about what he was going off script on. And I was like, how can you? And I mean, like, well, when I go off script, it's different because I don't have slides and PowerPoint presentation uh, to let you in on that. So this is what I have so far. I'm going to test it out again, see if it hangs properly. And if it doesn't, I'm just going to tweak it, you know? And it looks like it hangs a little bit down on this side. So I've got to add one more element, one more tiny element to this to make it hang properly. I know y'all are like, I got stuff to do. What are we doing? Talking all day long about this chandelier winter wire bling business. And I got, pies to make. Well, here we are. What I'm going to do is I've got this tiny little freshwater pearl, and that's going to be the thing that restores balance to the universe. Maybe not to the universe, but at least to this jewelry piece. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this on the very end here. So it'll be like a twofer. And that's going to do it, y'all. That's going to be the one, the savior of this piece to make it hang properly. And you're going to be like, what? Maybe I want a smaller pearl. I want a smaller pearl. So if you get this pearl mix, it's got all different kinds of pearls in it. And this is an actual bag. This is not just like display. This is an actual bag that I've got. You don't get the shell because I had somebody get this shell for me. But this is an actual baggie that so you could get one. It's not going to be exactly the same because everything's different, but it is going to be close. Now, the small ones do like to migrate to the bottom. So you do, if I wasn't on camera, I would just pour this out and hunt that way. But I don't want to make a mess and then. All right. So I'm going to shake that a little bit and get that to go on the other side. All right. So I've got these little tiny, tiny pearls, and I think that's one. This one has a flat spot on the back of it, which I don't normally mind. But for this, I want this to be a little bit of a little round nugget. So this one is a little bit more rounded, and I'm going to use that in my design. And the reason why I'm more particular about this one being on the round is because it's on the end. So it's a little bit more noticeable. So I want to take that into consideration for my design here. All right, so I'm just creating a wire wrap loop. And then I'm going to take this and put this on this link, the last outside part of my little chandelier that I'm making. And I'm going to wire wrap this, and then hopefully it'll be done. If it's off, I may just pretend like it's not, or I may adjust it slightly. Now, since I don't want there to be a ton of wire on this one, because it does add weight and I want to add a little bit of weight, but not too much, I am going to trim this. And you may not think that that has any difference in the way that this is going to hang, but it actually, it all adds up. So I'm going to trim it that normally I just kind of keep wrapping. But when it comes to balance and finding the right balance, sometimes you have to do that. All right. So what do y'all think? Do you like it? I think this could make a really cool pendant, or if you wanted to, you could make some really cool funky earrings. Um, and it seems to be hanging kind of right. You know what? That wire, that little bit of wire might have been the ticket. That might have been the thing. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take and add one of these opened. Oh, it is open. Well, that's okay because that was kind of not going to work out anyway. So I'm going to use one of these textured jump rings, one of the ones that do have an opening. And I'm going to use my bent nose pliers. You don't really have to use your bent nose pliers, but it does make it easier. And I'm going to use this so that it can hang from a chain or a necklace. All right. Jermaine says, if it's off a little bit, would it work to add a wrap or two to the main base? You could, like on this side, you could to make it. I want this to hang a little bit more though. So I may do it where I add another dangle at the bottom here. I may cut this off, believe it or not, and add this down here. Maybe I'll add two down here. And that'll also give it a little bit of visual. I'm over here holding it up where, and y'all probably like, look at his fingernails. You can't actually see anything. But this is what it looks like. So I think I may take this one off and put it here like this. And then that will kind of also have it hang down a little bit more. I'm a Libra, y'all. This is potentially dangerous. I'm over here searching for balance. It's like my life purpose or something. But in theory, I'm just going to pretend like it's done so that we can all get up and do something else. All right, so I would slip this chain in. I was going to say, it's a quick gift guide. That's not that quick. It's not that quick, y'all. We've been talking for almost 2 hours. It's not that quick. So this is a piece, y'all. What do you think? Jermaine says, I'm a Libra too. I totally get you. Amanda says, beautiful. I love gold with pearls and clear. It's not just clear, it's sparkly clear. Well, this one isn't, but these ones are. Bling bling, y'all. Julie says, beautiful, Andrew. Donna says, thank you so much, Andrew. Thank you all for hanging out with me. You know what? If you want to, this gave me an idea. Since this was hanging like this, if you all wanted to incorporate chain, you could definitely incorporate some chain. This may be a good stash buster if you have a lot of lengths of chain. Maybe I'll do a variation on this design. I'll post it after the video and I'll show you what it looks like when you have just a bunch of chain. There is an artist, I don't know if she's still making stuff, but she had her studio and it was around the corner from where I used to live in Williamsburg in Brooklyn. And her name was Lisa Levine. And she had all these crazy chain necklaces that she'd like run through the rolling mill and do different things. but a lot of it was like a tangled up chain was her kind of signature look. And you could definitely do that. I make that signature look even when I would try not to. But if you have on our website at allegorygallery.com, there are the chain mixes, and you get the little end parts of chain. And that could be a great design kind of idea for this kind of chandelier component where just different lengths of different kinds of chain are all kind of dangling at different lengths. It almost would have almost like a military vibe if you did it well, like those little badges. I don't know if that's what you call those pins, where it's got that. You can tell I don't know what I'm talking about, but they're like those military badges. I'm not making this up, y'all. This is a real thing. And if not, you never know. No, you all know. So this would be like you could add different lengths of chain. You could also, if you wanted to, link the chain so that it would be on one side, and you could have it come down on the other side. So it would be like that. And you could have dingle dangle things off of that chain. So there's a lot of ideas. Marion says metals. I guess it's metals. I don't know. Teresa says, I would buy it. And Suzanne says, I like it. Dennis says, yes, please. All right. I'm going to flip this around. You can see my face for a second or two. Hey, y'all. So hopefully you all had fun hanging out. I just did this kind of organic fun. I'm going to try to do this with the chain spool because I didn't actually finish this necklace, but in theory, this is what we made. No, they're not in theory. This is what we made. And in theory, it's like going to be a necklace. But you could do this as an earring like that. I don't know. I feel like I'd be like a royalty fairy princess, elven queen if I wore that kind of earring. But that could be good for if you want to have a little bit of movement. You can go to the club, break it down. Then you could have that. That'd be great for going, maybe not. You may get like twisted and tangled. But I think it looks very opulent, which I am into it. I'm into it when it looks like it's for royalty. It's like majestic. So that's what we made. And I think I may do a variation on this that I'm going to post after the video. I'll post it to our design challenge group. I'm going to put the link for the design challenge group up. And that is right here. I'm not as good as William is to point on the camera because I actually know where the camera is. I think the camera is here, but it shows up on the other side. But anyways, at the bottom of this screen, there's the link for the design challenge group. And I am going to post this finished piece on there. I think if I am going to do this, I'm going to do, all right. So I'm going to I'm going off script, y'all. Actually, I am going off script. So what I'm going to do is I don't like how this bends, how this paperclip chain bends like this. It looks weird to me. It's like a weird kind of, it looks like it's kinked. So what I would do is if I finish this and make this as an actual finished piece, and I'm not going to use it as my fairy princess queen earrings. What I would do is measure out 2 equal lengths of this paperclip chain, and then I would cut out the middle length, or since it's on 2 pieces, I don't you have to worry about cutting out that middle length. But if you have an even piece, cut out that middle length and then use a round jump ring to connect those 2 pieces, and it will fit more smoothly like a V, as opposed to this weird kind of kink. There's that weird is where it's kind of like hitting kind of like in the middle. Is it in the middle of the link or is it off to the side? So that's the one thing that I would tweak about that a little bit so that you can have, so it looks right. I don't know if you can see that or not, but can you see what I mean? Um, but anyways, I'll post that in the group after it's done. Teresa says, thank you for the demonstration, Andrew. Thanks for tuning in. Do you all like these demos and these tutorials? I know I kind of get rambly sometimes and share about generational trauma, but I was thinking about maybe doing them more frequently. We also do these things, it's like work with me videos on YouTube. And we just have a camera going while we're working. And I don't actually, nobody interacts with anybody on the video because it's otherwise I wouldn't really get as much done. Like normally I could bang this out in like 20 minutes, but since I am like Sir Talk a lot during these demos, it's not as quick. So maybe a little bit longer than 20 minutes. Let's just be real. But I was thinking about doing more demos. Maybe give William a break where he can do it too. Maybe we'll do like a throwdown challenge. I'll be like, I challenge you to make this design. And then he has to make it. Teresa says it's great for New Year's Eve. And Donna says, Teresa, yes, it would. Sylvia says, definitely looks regal. And Cynthia said, that looks great. Thanks. I tried hard, y'all. Kathleen says, great design and great information. I'm glad y'all find these useful. Marion says, I really like the way it hangs. I think it looks balanced. Thanks. You can, if you want to play with us even more, do more of these. Do more of these little pendants and then make a bigger superstructure. And then you could have it, be extra movement time. You could do a mobile for real. Or I saw these really cool over the ear wires. So they go like this. They cup your ear like this. And they're designed for super heavy stuff, so you don't end up stretching your earlobe. It just the pressure gets kind of distributed up at the top, which is not as bad as if it's like here. And so you can do like really big and like super big jewelry. But wouldn't that be neat? Like maybe not for like going to Target. Well, maybe Target. Maybe if you go into the Dollar General, you wouldn't wear this. But if you wanted to go like runway style, I think it would be cool to make like a huge one or like a super big, I don't know. And then you could like hang it up in your window when you're not wearing it. Marianne says, I see what you mean. And Donna says, oh, yes, I know exactly what you mean. And Donna says, yes, I love them. And Amanda says, yes, I really like your demos. And Suzanne says, yes. Julie says, it's awesome to see your process and creativity. Thanks. Oh, my dad's watching. Holy cow. My dad says, hello, Andrew, we're watching. Well, hi, Dad. Hopefully you all had fun learning how to make this pendant. Next Christmas, I'll check your work and see how well you all did. Mom could probably do this. Marion says, I like your tutorials and your stories. Kathleen says, Libra here too. And Jermaine says, I love your demos. Oh, good. Well, I'm glad that so many of you have enjoyed them. I was talking to William today about this, and we said, our numbers haven't really grown. We've been doing these videos almost every weekday for since 2020, since the pandemic started, and our numbers have not really grown significantly. We have probably about 20 people who watch Sometimes on the replays we get higher number, but we haven't really found that secret sauce that kind of will bump us up. And we're like, well, is it, we've been trying to listen to our customers and figure out what we need to do in order to kind of, to continue to do what we do, but do it in a mindful way that takes all of you in consideration as well. So we were talking about that today. Wouldn't this be fun? Um, of course, this didn't have anything to do with that, but well, maybe not. This too busy. Never mind. I was like, wouldn't that be fun? No, it's not that fun. It's too busy. Too busy, y'all. But anyway, so we've been talking about ways that we can better do this, and it's like maybe we're focusing too much on the product, and we need to get into like the stories of things or do something different to kind of switch things up. I think it's fun to talk with you all, but maybe people don't like the talking as much. Like it's kind of off-putting if you're like watching a video tutorial. It's like those recipes where they're like, here's my life story. And then now after reading 5 pages of my fleeing from this war-torn country, we can get to the recipe. And then the recipe is like 2 lines. So maybe the people are like, they're like, oh, he talks too much about the weather. I don't know. So we'll see. We're talking about doing different things and playing around. Another cool thing that you could do if you wanted to is ball up some head pins, ball up some wire, and instead of finishing off your pieces with a coil that's flush, have that be that little balled end incorporated so that it gives it a little bit more texture, and it will repeat that kind of look from where the little rounds were. I don't know. I don't know. For me, what I think is really cool is when I take something like this and I learn from it in different ways. So, it's not always just about just making a piece and being done with it, but also thinking about how it can provoke a response for the next project. So, incorporating more texture into this kind of branch-like shape, this kind of this chandelier shape, I could use that bold head pin to add just a little bit more texture. I don't know, maybe. I'll test it out and you'll see how it goes. Thank you again. I'm not going to be back on necessarily before the end time. That didn't sound right. Before Christmas. So if I don't see you, Merry Christmas if you celebrate. Happy Yule if you're celebrating. Winter solstice is tomorrow. Happy Hanukkah to all of those. I think this is the third night of Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy, I don't know if Ramadan's happening, but you get the point. Happy whatever winter celebration you're celebrating. I know this is not always an easy time of year for folks. And if it's hard for you, just know that our thoughts are with all of you out there. We appreciate all of you out there. We care for all of you out there. And we're so grateful for all of you who have been a part of our lives. Whether you're here watching now, a customer that sometimes places an order every once in a blue moon, or one of y'all that places an order every day. We appreciate all of you out there. So thank you so much. Happy holidays. William will be back tomorrow with what? I don't know. One day we'll figure things out like a calendar and a schedule. In the meantime, happy holidays, y'all. Bye-bye.